So this is Arizona, really classic, like Wild West, cowboys sort of stuff. Really crazy sort of desert landscapes with the Grand Canyon. The Wave, this one's called The Wave in northern Arizona. Horseshoe Bend, Havasupai Falls. And so it's a very beautiful place, different a little bit than California because Arizona is practically a desert, whereas California has a lot more nature similar to here. So Yosemite, then it also has Death Valley, the hottest one. I think the record of hottest place on the planet is in Death Valley, often in the summer at like, I don't even know, 55 degrees Celsius or something like that. San Francisco and Silicon Valley and the San Francisco Bay with Oakland, the coast, the beaches, very Mediterranean style climate and temperature. And I lived in San Francisco for many years, and that's kind of now where I call home back in America. This is LA, home of Hollywood, Disneyland, all these places. And then it's pretty crazy because it doesn't happen very often, but you can, and this last winter it did, you can get snow on the mountains. And then right at the beach, you can get a picture like this, and you can go surfing and skiing all in one day. So this is my family, my dad, my mom, my brother. And this is, yeah, basically growing up in America. So what did it look like? So fairly simple, and I don't think this looks terribly different than maybe what life can look like in Europe. Certainly we look similar. Not bad, growing up in the 90s with Mario and having a pretty good time with all sorts of new video games, new technology. Going to high school, classic like High School Musical stuff on the basketball team, and it wasn't that nice, and we did not have lockers, no lockers allowed. Yeah, graduating from high school, and when I went to university, my parents said very clearly, you need to do well. The world is not such an easy place. There's a lot of competition out there, and if you want to get a good job and if you want to have a good life, you need to do well in school. So I took this very seriously, studied really hard, and I actually did really pretty well. I was at the top of my class, and I got all sorts of awards, and I studied basically computers and IT. And in classic American fashion, we did our graduation ceremony in a multi-thousand person basketball stadium with fireworks, everything to the extremes, just to be stereotypical. And my name was up on the highlight screen in the middle, and I was sitting on the stage in the front because I had done really well in school and taken the tests well. And so it was somehow a fairly classic, good American dream. Good family, good situations, good education. You had all your needs taken care of. And so everything went pretty well, and I got a good job. Everything was going well as planned. San Francisco, and this is one of the richest, most expensive places, at least in the country. I was working there doing consulting and tech stuff and big buildings and all sorts of this stuff. Worked in projects at all the big tech companies like Google and Apple and Facebook and Microsoft, and got a good look behind the scenes of all these companies, which slowly turned me off from a lot of it. But life in San Francisco and life in California was pretty nice and pretty good, and it looks very glamorous, similar to New York. And so you kind of are in this strange position of thinking, this is really cool and really beautiful. But at the same time, right as you walk to work, there's people on the street like this. And so you are left wondering, how does this happen that a billionaire drives by in his self-driving Tesla, but then there's people like this on the street? How can this be? And of course, we all know, I don't think this is exclusive to America, but consumerism and consumption is extreme. People buy all sorts of new stuff all the time, and then 6 months later, it goes in the trash. And this is just not a very good way to do things. And so I started to wake up to a lot of this stuff. And then 2016 was sort of this crazy year of, for me at least, this crazy year of awakening where lots of stuff was happening, not just in America and in California, but also around the world. So Brexit, as we all know, Brexit from the EU in 2016, we went from this guy, this good-looking guy, to someone that doesn't quite look as good. And it was a very confusing time how we went from hope to nope. And for me and everybody else in San Francisco, we were living in a bubble, I guess. We couldn't understand how this would be possible. On the coasts of the country, you don't really get what it's like to be living in Texas or Alabama or in Mississippi. It's a totally different world. At the same time, I believe this was in Vegas, all sorts of, and I know you guys get it all in the news here because I watch the news here. We have like a shooting every day or like every 6 hours. It's unbelievable and it's terrible. And this was a huge one that happened in Vegas. So this was all happening at the same time. And I continued to see stuff like this. And I just said, what the heck is going on? How is this happening? And yeah, needless to say, I started to lose a lot of faith in America and to throw more stuff in. Climate change was a big thing. Here's the coast of California and droughts and never-ending fires every year, burning thousands of acres of trees and looking like those pictures that you've seen from Australia where the sky is red and you can't see more than 100 meters away. And I was in those situations. And then a hurricane through the Caribbean. Puerto Rico is a territory, kind of colony-esque territory of America. And this 2 hurricanes went through and destroyed Puerto Rico. So this was all incredibly fast. This all happened in about a year. And I was asking myself, what is going on? It seems like everything's falling apart. And if it couldn't be better, we have Trump at the helm of the ship taking us in bad directions. So at this point, it took a lot of soul searching, but I decided that I can't do this anymore. And so I basically sold most of my stuff, put it into my backpack, similar to our previous stories. Did a lot of hitchhiking, backpacking, but I went to Puerto Rico. And after the hurricanes with a friend, he had gone ahead of me and he had invited me to come and help. And I decided this was the best thing I could do at this point with my life, is to try and help after a disaster. So I went to Puerto Rico, got trained up, and then got to trying to help the people there with getting them money from the government, rebuilding infrastructure, basically trying to deliver aid to people who had been the most affected. Boop. And at this time, as if things kind of couldn't get any worse, my dad, who had been, more than a dad at some point, because I had grown up, he had become a really good friend of mine.